Hello, everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Sunday, the 13th of June, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from our correspondents in North America, Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Canada joins other G7 countries with a big COVID vaccine donation.
Jane Kathleen Gregorio in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Austin downtown shooting kills 1 and injures 13.
Keisha Rose Lebanon in Santa Clarita, California.
The Port of Los Angeles sets a record-breaking annual volume milestone in the Western Hemisphere with its 10 millionth container processed within a year's time.
Rose Papa Angeles in Washington, D.C. tells us about the district launching a new vaccination pod, announcing a new vaccine outreach workforce, and encouraging community members to join Day of Action on Juneteenth. For business news, Melissa Allen in Lakeland reports about Amazon aired to drastically expand operations in Central Florida. For ABC Sports, Alan and Eva Basayahe gives us a recap of day one of E3 2021. For ABC Food, BJ Alvarez in San Antonio, Texas, shares with us his cheesy keto crust pizza recipe. And for our roundtable, today is Kitchen Klutzes Day, and we will talk about our classic kitchen fails. Our coverage begins now. A motley alliance of Israeli parties ends Benjamin Netanyahu's 12 straight years as prime minister, as parliament voted in a new government led by his former ally, right-wing Jewish nationalist Naftali Bennett. In a seismic shift in the country's turbulent politics, Bennett, a tech millionaire and former Special Forces commander, is sworn in at the helm of an ideologically divided 8-party bloc united only by disdain for the country's longest-serving prime minister and calls for ideological restraint.
כולנו נצטרך כדי שהמהלך האדיר הזה יצליח, כולנו צריכים לדעת לשמור על איפוק וריסון בהיבטים האידיאולוגיים.
71-year-old Netanyahu vows shortly before his defeat that, quote, "If it's our destiny to be in the opposition, we'll do so with our heads high until we take down this bad government and return to lead the country our way." Beloved as King Bibi and Mr. Security by his right-wing supporters and condemned as a crime minister by his critics, Netanyahu has long been the dominant figure in Israeli politics. But a vote in the Knesset legislature following weeks of intense political drama ends his government with a razor-thin majority of 60 to 59 in the 120-seat chamber. U.S. President Joe Biden swiftly congratulated Bennett, stating he looks forward to working with Prime Minister Bennett to strengthen all aspects of the close and enduring relationship between the two nations. President Biden says Israel has no better friend than the United States. Delighted revelers packed a square near the Knesset in Jerusalem and poured into Tel Aviv's city center to celebrate Netanyahu's fall. In Mali, the new Malian transitional Prime Minister Choguel Kokala Maiga is bringing his government together for the first time by assigning it a very busy roadmap before elections in February 2022. Prime Minister Maiga hopes this will bring civilians back into power. He says the revision of the constitution is ongoing and will be thorough.
Pour cela, il sera envisagé la création d'un organe unique indépendant de gestion des élections, réclamé unanimement par la classe politique et la société civile. Nous procédons à la révision consensuelle et inclusive de la Constitution dans le respect de son article 118 et la relecture intelligente de l'accord pour la paix et la réconciliation issu du processus d'Alger dans le respect des principes fondamentaux énoncés seront poursuivis et approfondis. L'accord pour la
Prime Minister Maiga also says that the legal proceedings pertaining to the killings and abuses of victims during the July 2020 events will be initiated.
De véritables poursuites judiciaires consécutives aux tueries et exactions contre les victimes des journées de juillet 2020 seront également engagées. De même,
Extinction Rebellion climate protesters demonstrate on the beach of St. Ives, Cornwall, on the last day of the G7 summit taking place in nearby Carbis Bay. Although they hope to see President Joe Biden put America back on the right track, they are disappointed by the lack of action to tackle climate change and demand leaders stop subsidizing fossil fuels.
The kind of pledges we're getting might have been appropriate about 20 years ago. The life support systems of the planet are currently collapsing. We're in the biggest emergency. People can't get their heads around it. And what we've got are the kinds of pledges that are going to result in billions of people dying. We just aren't in the space of promises anymore. There are things that people can do immediately. No more subsidies of fossil fuels. End of. Stop it, you know? And they haven't been making these kind of decisive moves to get us off this fossil fuel nightmare. And, you know, the repairs to nature have to be done through the farming and food system. I'm not hearing them talking like leaders who understand the crisis that we're in. I must say that I am glad to hear Joe Biden has brought back the spirit of multilateralism and bringing the leaders together and having made some commitments together, and that he is centering racial justice and a just transition in the work that they're doing in America. But of course he's got a lot of nonsense to catch up on. You know, America has led the world in climate denial. And so he's got to move as fast as possible.
They're dumbing down, they're greenwashing everything we asked them to do. The Paris Agreement hasn't been adhered to by what they should have signed up to do. They've reneged on all those promises basically. So we ask them to stop now investing in fossil fuels. That's the main thing, to reach carbon neutral by 2025.
Now for COVID news, despite criticizing the G7 for only inviting one African country to the summit, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is pleased with the support and assistance from G7 leaders who promised to donate more than 1 billion vaccine doses to the developing world.
We were unfortunately the only country from the African continent who would have preferred that the African Union should have been invited, but be that as it may, we were here. We brought a message here that we would like to have access to the vaccines as well, so that the people of Africa, of whom only 2% have now been vaccinated, as opposed to much higher percentages in the north, should also be vaccinated. And to this end, we're pleased to say that the G7 countries have committed quite a lot of support and assistance in the form of making vaccines available, and in some cases allowing exports to go to African countries and indeed other parts of the world. We also raised the issue of giving capacity and capability to countries in the developing economies so that they too should be able to produce their own vaccines, so that it should not continue to be the preserve of the G7 countries.
South Africa, along with India and South Korea, have been guests at the G7 this year. A race against time is underway in eastern France after the detection of a Delta variant COVID-19 cluster in the Haute-Cole, the Arts du Rhin in Strasbourg. The Regional Health Agency, or ARS, has launched an immediate action plan with the distribution of masks, hydroalcoholic gel, self-testing, and a targeted vaccination campaign.
On avait prévu des mesures de cette nature, les personnes étaient formées sur le pont, on avait prévu de les faire dans 1 ou 2 semaines à l'approche de l'été, et puis effectivement l'arrivée des beaux jours et cette situation très particulière de cluster dans ce milieu et dans les bars nous a amené à agir plus rapidement.
Here's today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, As of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, June 13, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 175,786,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. over 33.4 million, India over 29.4 million, and Brazil over 17.3 million. This virus has now already claimed more than 3,797,000 lives worldwide. Top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are US, more than 599,000, Brazil, more than 486,000, and India, more than 370,000. Total vaccine doses administered worldwide is now at 2,342,375,842. Up next, updates from Alberta, Canada, and Washington, D.C. Eagle News America continues.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas, a one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to Exchange, our health outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Kui in Las Vegas. Responding to the World Health Organization's call that richer countries help with supplying vaccines to poorer neighbors, Canada pledges 100 million doses. To tell us more about this gesture, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us this evening. Thomas?
Thanks, Anna. Sounds like a lot. 1 billion doses of vaccine. That's what the G7 leaders collectively have pledged to donate to the global immunization effort. They just wrapped up that three-day leaders meeting that you heard about earlier in the program. Now, Canada's share of that, 100 million doses. Also sounds pretty generous. But you know, in reality, the whole effort falls far short of what's needed. You recall last week the World Health Organization suggesting that poorer countries need enough for 11 billion, that's billion with a B, 11 billion vaccinations. That's how much inoculant is required just to immunize 70% of the world's population. So even if we got all of that inoculant, all of that vaccine, 3 out of 10 people in the world would not be immunized. Following the G7 Leaders Summit, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau provided details of Canada's contribution. Most of it is going to be in cash, money that can be used to buy the vaccine and distribute it. And don't underrate the distribution. It has its challenges, big challenges. You see, you can't just ship this stuff like an Amazon package to a place that doesn't have the infrastructure to store it, the healthcare system to to get it into people's arms. Only 13 million doses of what Canada has promised will actually come from the country's medicine cabinets. Exactly when the majority of these vaccines will be shipped, well, that's still unclear. Trudeau is vague about the delivery, but he says it won't affect with anything with what's happening here at home. Canada's vaccine rollout will continue as planned, and the donations will not slow that down. Now, the Prime Minister's announcement is a bit of a face-saving measure. You might recall Canada's been roundly criticized for being the only wealthy country, the only member of G7 to dip into the supply of COVAX vaccines that should have been going to poorer countries. So now we're finally stepping up to the plate and sharing some of the riches with less fortunate parts of the globe. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas. Now, I understand Canada is throwing out hundreds of thousands of doses of vaccines. What's the story there?
Well, late last Friday afternoon, Anna, I got an announcement from the government, just a short press release about the 310,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine that Canada received back in April. It's been sitting in storage since then because Health Canada's been trying to determine whether it was safe to use. The vaccine came from a J&J factory in Baltimore, Maryland, and that factory had had some serious quality control issues. So after weeks of investigation, health authorities here said the vaccine will not be released. They're going to dispose of it. And additionally, we will not be accepting any further shipments from that plant until Health Canada inspectors do an on-site inspection. They hope to have that done sometime this summer. Anna?
That's a real shame, right, Thomas? I mean, considering all the other countries that could have,
such a waste, but
benefited.
you just don't want to take any chances
That's
putting
true.
it into somebody if it is in fact contaminated.
True. Now, did your Prime Minister have a chance to talk with President Biden at the G7 about reopening the Canada-U.S. border?
Well, actually, they did discuss it, Anna, but there's no deal. This, incidentally, was the first opportunity for face-to-face talks between the two leaders. You know, they've yacked on the phone, attended virtual meetings together, but this is the first time they've talked in person, and it comes down to what each leader thinks is best for his country, and that's why there's no deal. Trudeau has said all along, 75% of Canadians have to have a first shot before we put that welcome mat out at the borders. The U.S., of course, you guys are further along in reopening and obviously would like to see a return to normal much sooner. But I'm betting there'll be some kind of a deal next month. Not fully open. My thoughts are it'll probably accommodate just fully vaccinated people, but at least it'll be a partial reopening. Anna?
That's good to know. I know a lot of people are looking forward to traveling up there. Me included, my family would love to go to Canada before the end of the year, hopefully. Now, Thomas, before I let you go, one more question. Assuming your country achieves herd immunity, what are some of the things we can look forward to in the fall?
Okay, I'm going to give you the good news first. The good news, perhaps, we'll see uninterrupted full school year of in-class learning. That's good news. Now the bad news, because we know that daycares, kindergartens, elementary schools, they're all kind of cesspools of communicable disease. You know, I'm talking about things like the common cold, the flu. We had none of that last year because we were so busy on keeping ourselves safe from COVID. None of these other viruses had a chance to gain a foothold. So I suspect we'll be seeing them make a reappearance this fall. And as you know, if they spread in schools, kids bring it home, and it's just a matter of time before it spreads to the workplace. The common cold and the flu. Don't you just love being back to normal, Anna?
Well, hopefully, I know we talked about this a few times in the program, where we will keep some of those healthy habits that we've developed. I mean, it'll just be for good. That's why we didn't see a lot of flu cases, right?
I mean, the big thing is washing the hands. That's probably the biggest thing you can do to prevent a cold. So
Exactly.
I know my wife is still stocking up on sanitizer. I think that's going to be just a constant in our lives, but it'll also keep away, like you say, the flu and the common cold. Hannah?
Yes. Well, thank you, Thomas, for the updates. We will talk to you at the end of the show during a roundtable. I want to hear
I'm
some of
looking
your
forward to it.
kitchen catastrophe, if there's any. I doubt it. Now,
Thanks,
thank you, Thomas. Back here in the U.S., from the nation's capital, Eagle News correspondent Rose Papaangelis reports about the various initiatives the district is launching to encourage more residents to get vaccinated against COVID-19. From vaccination pods to partnering with several community organizations and reaching out to individuals and families, even if it means literally knocking on every door.
Thank you. On Thursday, June 11, Mayor Muriel Bowser joins Mary's Center and United Healthcare to celebrate and cut the ribbon on the new mobile vaccination pod at the Mary's Center Fort Totten Clinic in Ward 5. At the ceremony, the mayor announces the launch of a vaccine outreach workforce and encourages community members to register for the third DC COVID-19 Community Core Day of Action. Mayor Bowser says going forward, an all-hands-on-deck approach is needed to ensure every eligible person in the community claims their free COVID-19 vaccine. She calls on district residents and reiterates that there is a safe and very effective vaccine available that can prevent people from dying of COVID-19. The vaccine is free, it is easy to get, but this work to reach more people is urgent because people are still dying of COVID-19. Mayor Bowser adds that most of the people dying in D.C. are Black, and it doesn't have to be that way. The vaccine is available and people need to take it. According to the mayor's office, the vaccination pod has 4 units and can be used to vaccinate up to 400 individuals per day. In addition to supporting vaccination efforts, the pod will also free up resources within Mary's Center to ensure that patients can continue to access regular health care. Beginning Monday, June 14, the district's vaccination efforts will be bolstered by a new paid outreach team. The district is partnering with 7 community-based organizations that have previously supported DC's COVID-19 response and were the recipients of DC Hope grants. These are Anacostia Coordinating Council, Check It Enterprises, Congress Heights Community Training and Development Corporation, Far Southeast Family Strengthening Collaborative, Latin American Youth Center, Marshall Heights Community Development Organization, and National Association Advancement of Returning Citizens. Collectively, these organizations will hire and deploy a team of approximately 100 people who will be dedicated to engaging unvaccinated residents and helping them make a plan to get vaccinated. They will be knocking on doors and engaging residents in high-traffic areas. These teams will also work with faith leaders, barbershops, beauty salons, and youth organizations to hear residents' concerns, share accurate and reliable vaccine information, and follow up with residents after making plans to get vaccinated. Members of the community can support all of these efforts by joining the DC COVID-19 Community Core Day of Action on June 13th, Saturday, June 19. Canvassing shifts will launch at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. The goal of each day of action is to engage with neighbors who have not yet been vaccinated against COVID-19 and help them make a plan to get vaccinated. Those who want to participate can learn more or register for the Day of Action at bit.ly/dayofactiondc. Currently, it is 81 degrees Fahrenheit and 27 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital. Precipitation is at 15%, humidity at 61%, and wind at 7 miles per hour. In Washington, D.C., Rose Papaangelis, Eagle News. We'll live in interesting times. Back to you.
Thank you, Rose, for that report. Still to come, updates from Texas and California. Eagle News America will return in a moment. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. A shooting in downtown Austin kills 1 and injures 13 others. Bureau Chief Jane Kathleen Gregorio is with us tonight with the details. Jane?
Thank you, Anna, and howdy from the Lone Star States. Our story tonight brings us to the capital city of Austin, where the Austin Police Department has announced the first fatality from the mass shooting incident that took place in downtown early Saturday, injuring 14 people. Among the victims, Douglas John Cantor, a 25-year-old white male, succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased on Sunday, June 13th. Police investigation continues, with 2 suspects identified, according to a news briefing held by Interim Police Chief Joseph Chacon Saturday.
We have developed suspects in this case. There are 2 male suspects. I'm not going to release any further information because the investigation is very much ongoing, and we are actively working to get them into custody. I will say that I feel that we are going to be successful in getting them into custody. So we're actively working on that part. This investigation involves multiple local and federal agencies. The Austin Police Department is the lead agency in this. We're being assisted by Texas DPS, as well as by the FBI and our partners at the ATF, because guns were involved in this. This does appear to be an isolated incident between 2 parties. So that's why I say that most of the victims were innocent bystanders, but we're still sorting out all of the victims to see what their involvement is in this case.
At 1:24 a.m. Saturday, calls began coming through to 911, reporting gunshots fired in the area with several wounded. Chief Chacon praised the efforts of police officers for their quick response in identifying several shooting victims that were in distress. They applied life-saving measures, carrying on their persons individual first aid kits, tourniquets, and they conducted CPR as patients waited for emergency services, with some police officers even transporting victims directly to the hospital in their own vehicles. According to Chief Chacon, these life-saving measures helped keep many of the victims alive. Currently, 12 remain hospitalized, with 1 in critical condition. Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a statement on Saturday's shooting, saying, "The Texas Department of Public Safety is working closely with Austin Police to respond to the shooting and ensure that the perpetrators are captured and punished to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you to APD and first responders for quickly responding to the scene and saving lives. Cecilia and I ask our fellow Texans to join us in prayer for those who were injured." Despite Saturday's incident, Chief Chacon issued a statement about the safety of downtown Austin, informing visitors that the capital city is relatively safe, but to always exercise caution.
We encourage people who want to come downtown to enjoy our amazing city. We have these tragic events that happen, and they're horrible. Overall, we remain a safe city. And I think that people should keep that in mind, but also keep in mind when you come downtown, you need to be safety conscious. Traveling groups, if possible, be vigilant of your environment and your surroundings, And importantly, if you plan to drink, have a plan to get home.
The Austin Police Department encourages anyone in the community needing support as a result of this event to contact Austin Police Department Victim Services at 512-974-5037. Detectives are seeking persons with information or video of the incident and asking them to call APD Homicide at 512-974-TIPS or the Crime Stoppers tip line at 512-472-8477 or by downloading the Crime Stoppers or Austin PD mobile app. Callers can choose to remain anonymous. In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Kathleen, for the updates. How far are you from Austin?
Well, Anna, Austin is about 200 miles from Corpus Christi, where I am in South Texas. So that's about a 3.5 hour drive to get over there. And usually, the reason people would go to Austin is because it has a very lively atmosphere. It's the capital of live music in Texas. And, there's a lot of, things going on there. So it's definitely a tourist destination. And at the time that this incident happened, Austin was nearly back to its normal state of occupancy where crowds were starting to gather. People were actually there for like a special event. And so there were quite a bit of people during that time. Anna?
You answered my next question. I was going to ask, like, how is it there in Austin now, with the pandemic? Now, did you know anyone personally affected by this incident?
Well, Anna, fortunately, the friends and colleagues that I had there in Austin, even family members, I had checked on them. And fortunately, nobody that I knew was affected by that incident. Anna?
Thank you, Kathleen. Now, I'm just wondering, because here in Vegas, we are experiencing extreme, excessive heat warning. It's actually 115 degrees Fahrenheit or 46 degrees Celsius here in Las Vegas. How about there in Texas right now? I'm wondering if it's hotter.
Well, Anna, wow. Well, as you're there in the desert, I imagine that you are reaching the triple digits. We have yet to reach the triple digits. We're pretty close. In parts of Texas, we're in the upper 90s. But here in Corpus Christi, we are at, we're by the beach. So we are at 85 degrees, but our humidity is 67%. So you have the advantage of having that dry kind of heat. Here, it's not so much the heat, it's the humidity. Anna?
Thanks, Kathleen. I think I'll take the dry heat any day. Well, thank you, and I'm sure you'll keep us updated as more as that story develops. And we'll talk to you again at the end of the show during our roundtable.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Kathleen. A new record has been set by the Port of Los Angeles for the most processed container in a year. We have with us Keisha Rose Labanan live to tell us what this means for the city.
Thank you, Anna. The Port of Los Angeles in San Pedro, California, described as the nation's busiest port, sets a record-breaking annual volume milestone in the Western Hemisphere with its 10 millionth container process within a year's time. Now, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti states, the quote is the beating heart of our economy, the backbone of our region's prosperity, and the crossroad that makes Los Angeles a true gateway to the rest of the world. Reaching this remarkable milestone is a reflection of its role as a critical engine of the global supply chain and a testament to our unmatched port infrastructure and highly skilled workforce. Now, the container belongs to CMA CGM, which is also known as the port's largest shipping line customer. This 10 million TEU or 20-foot equivalent unit, which is a standardized measurement, is used in the sector to quantify cargo containers of different sizes contained soybeans, which is actually the main U.S. supply export that is second in the world with its destination to Asia. Now, in celebration of this momentous occasion, Mayor Garcetti, along with Ed Aldrich, the president of CMA CGM America, and other ports and city leaders and officials, they assembled at the Phoenix Marine Terminal at the Port of Los Angeles to view the loading of its 10 million container onto the CMA CGM Amerigo Vespucci, as well as to speak to the public through satellite live streaming. Now let's hear from Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti on site with regards to this reaching milestone. Let's take a look.
In the darkest moments of this past year, some of the brightest spots we saw were those who were keeping us alive, keeping us connected, keeping our economy going while we didn't know what tomorrow would bring. And in fact, more things were moving through this port than we have ever moved before. And so today we are marking a milestone, and we're going to watch a very special cargo container, or TEU as we know them, as it gets loaded onto a ship. And it's special because this is the 10th million TEU in the last 12 months, a brand new record. Let's hear it for LA and the port. You heard that right. We were the first port anywhere in the Western Hemisphere to ever do this. And we often refer to the Port of LA as America's port, because I can talk to anybody in any corner of our nation and let them know how dependent they are and how important this port is to their commerce, to their jobs, to their daily life. This is not only the busiest and largest, but this twin port complex together with our sister port of Long Beach. 31% of the goods brought into this country, 1 out of every 48 jobs in America, 1 out of every 9 jobs in the region comes through this port.
Once the Port of Los Angeles ends its fiscal year of 2020 to 2021, this upcoming June 30th, it would have already processed over 10.8 million TEUs. The Port of Los Angeles has consistently reached the #1 spot every year as a top container port in the country since 2000. Just last year, the port processed around 9.2 million TEUs, which is the 4th highest volume year in its history. And the last highest annual container volume record was actually in 2018 with 9.5 million TEUs. In Santa Clarita, California, Keisha Rose LeBannon, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Keisha, and congratulations. That's exciting news. It doesn't sound like the Port of Los Angeles was affected, but by the pandemic. Just how much did the COVID-19 pandemic affect the Port of Los Angeles?
You know, Anna, the onset of the pandemic last year actually resulted in an increase of surge of consumer purchase and great need to restock empty store shelves and e-commerce warehouse throughout the nation, which actually caused an increase in imports. Now, before the pandemic, the port was processing about, 10 container ships per day. But during the pandemic, it actually increased to approximately 15 container ships daily. So the COVID-19 pandemic did not close the Port of Los Angeles, but it just did the opposite. You know, it continued with its daily operations with no interruption. It actually maintained jobs to port employees and ensuring the delivery of necessary items and goods. So actually, the pandemic made the port even busier than previous years. Anna?
That makes sense, right? A lot of people ordered online, and also with the construction industry, with people doing a lot of home improvements during the pandemic. Well, thank you, Keisha, for that report, and we'll see you again during our roundtable.
Thank you, Anna.
Up next, business news, EBC Sports, EBC Food, and today's roundtable, as we've been mentioning, about our most embarrassing cooking fails. Eagle News America continues.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
Welcome back. This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Kui here in Las Vegas. Now for today's business news, Amazon is expanding its air freight operations in the Sunshine State. To tell us more, Eagle News correspondent Melissa Allen. files this report.
As the world of e-commerce continues to experience exceptional growth, Amazon is planning to drastically increase its air freight operations in Central Florida.
Nestled in between Tampa and Orlando sits the city of Lakeland, which according to the latest U.S. Census data, is one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country, and in 2020 ranked second fastest in the nation. In 2019, Amazon signed a ground lease agreement with the city of Lakeland, and their subsidiary Amazon Air began air cargo operations from the Lakeland Linder International Airport last summer. The airport has a total land area of almost 1,800 acres, and its footprint is bigger than all 4 of the Walt Disney World theme parks put together. Amazon plans to expand its presence at the Lakeland-based airport, and according to the Tampa Bay Business Journal, the online retail giant hopes to double the number of flights per day over the next 6 years.
Reporting from Lakeland, Florida, Melissa Allen, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
For EBC Sports, Alan and Eva Basalyahe of our Los Angeles team take us to day one of this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, virtual only event. Here's a recap.
Eagle News viewers, E3 officially launched yesterday for the first day of its mega gaming convention, not taking place in person this year, but through the virtual platform. And whether you're an avid or casual gamer, E3 is regarded by players as the world's premier gaming expo.
Exhibitors at this year's E3 include up-and-coming development studios, hoping to garner attention to their projects, as well as companies like Xbox, Bethesda, Nintendo, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Take-Two Interactive, and Bandai Namco Entertainment, all of whom are responsible for some of the most successful AAA blockbuster games.
The virtual convention also includes special appearances from stars and commentators from the entertainment world. Fans and industry professionals who registered for this virtual E3 gaming convention are able to visit interactive booths through the E3 portal and app, meet up at the interactive lounges, view the entire live streaming broadcasts, engage in the discussion forums, and so much more. All done virtually from the comforts of one's home, without having to deal with traffic going to the convention center or interact with large crowds this year.
Yesterday's official kickoff featured Ubisoft Forward, Gearbox E3, and GamesBeat. Ubisoft Forward treated viewers with both new and fan-favorite franchise titles. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Fan-favorite franchise titles, fan-favorite franchise titles, and fan-favorite franchise titles.
Okay, for those who can't keep up with tongue twisters, no worries, because what captivated our collective noggins were first looks of Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, which, as a game adaptation of James Cameron's movie, is naturally an open-world game. There is also Far Cry 6, wherein this time we saw the Far Cry campaign unfold through the eyes of some of the series' notable villains.
From Nintendo, we were given Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. This isn't the first time we've seen this marvelous team-up in which gamers spanning age groups can play together. Lastly, Gearbox. The folks behind the Borderlands succession of games showed off an impressive lineup of celebrities lending their talents to voice characters for the Borderlands movie. Director Eli Roth, Kevin Hart, Edgar Ramirez, Ryan Reynolds, T-Pain, and others are among the superstar-powered recruits for this project.
Stay tuned to our broadcast for more updates on this year's E3 gaming convention. In Los Angeles, California, Eva and Alan, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Craving pizza but want to experience it the lighter way? Well, EBC friend BJ Alvarez shares with us his recipe for cheesy keto crust pizza. Let's take a look. Thank you, BJ, for sharing with us that delicious looking keto-friendly pizza, which, you know, it's a great segue because June 13 is National Kitchen Klutzes Day. So we have our Eagle News team here tonight to join us. And, you know, we want to know, are you a kitchen mainstay? Are you one of those that can open your fridge, you know, take out ingredients here and there and whip something up? Or are you one of those who have to have a recipe that you have to follow? We want to know what's your most favorite dish to cook, and last but not least, your funniest or most embarrassing kitchen fails. So let's go ahead and start with Thomas. Thomas, can you share with us any of these things?
Okay, well, first of all, we talk about kitchen disasters, kitchen klutzes. I think there's two types of kitchen disasters, and the second type should never be allowed in a kitchen. The first type is, okay, you burned something boiled over, you put too much of the spice in, or you're just plain a bad cook. Okay, you can kind of work around that, I guess. The second one is where you start doing harm for to yourself because you can't handle a knife properly. You burn stuff. You burn yourself, and instead of just the recipe. So I will confess, I've sliced myself a couple of times with a knife before I properly learned how to use one. It just takes a little bit of discipline, and you can avoid a lot of these disasters. That's why I tend to, if I'm going to try something new, first time around, I'll try a recipe. But you know, cooking is like playing jazz. You know, you never play it the same way twice. You always improvise, and it's
That's
like
true.
a good romance. You don't want to hurry it. Let things take their time. Let things marinate overnight instead of half an hour. Let the spices blend in. Never rush things when you're cooking, and you'll come up with just a fantastic
Wow.
meal.
Listen to Thomas, huh? Now we know how romantic he can get. Well, who does more of the cooking? You or your wife at home?
These days I do, because I'm pretty much confined to home. I've been doing a little bit of work out of home, and I hope to stay working at home. So I've got the time to do it. When she gets home from work, it's nice for her because then we've got a meal prepared. And we were talking the other day about how we were kind of opposites in a lot of ways. She's at home out in the backyard in the garden. Yard work to me is punishment. I'm at home in the kitchen. I like to spend an hour and a half making dinner, and it's relaxing. It's relaxing.
Yes.
How about you, Anna? How do you fare in the kitchen?
Well, it's funny you asked that because like me and Eliza, we for our Thursday episode last week, we talked about herbs and spices, and we did share some. Again, I'm not a cook. I'm not one of those that can open the fridge and just whip something up. So I do have to follow a recipe. But I will share my most embarrassing cooking experience here before the end. But let's go to Kathleen. And you guys, Kathleen, Keisha, feel free to chime in the conversation. But Kathleen, let's talk to you. What kind of cook are you?
Well, I didn't start learning how to cook until, I was probably later on when I was married. Most of the time I let mom cook at home, even when I was already a working adult. My mom always did the cooking. But, after I got married, I wanted to try my culinary skills. And one of my favorite dishes to make is, it's like a Filipino dish called tortang talong, which means eggplant omelet. And
that is one of my favorite too, Kathleen.
I love that dish, but I didn't know the principles of softening the eggplant. I didn't know. I thought you could just fry up some oil and then throw the eggplant, sliced eggplant there, and then just cover it with eggs. And so when I presented it to my husband, it was very, very difficult to chew. It was like chewing rubber. So that was my first, epic fail. He even took a picture of it and put on Facebook, epic fail, tortang talong by my wife. And got a lot of laughs. But over the years, though, as I became more interested in watching YouTube videos, thank goodness for YouTube. We didn't have that back in the day, so now suddenly
exactly
everything. Yeah, and so now I can say that my cooking prowess has increased, and I have made several dishes that have gotten lots of good comments. And my favorite thing to make is noodles or pasta with bechamel sauce. In fact, I love
What kind of sauce was that, Kathleen?
Bechamel sauce. It's kind of like an Alfredo, but it's made with butter, milk, a little bit of lemon, salt, and it just goes amazing with garlic and on your pasta with Parmesan and mozzarella. And you could just it's like a nice base for anything. You could add other ingredients. But that's my favorite dish to make. Anna?
That sounds good. I think I'll try that for with shrimp. Right? That sounds like it would go well with shrimp.
Good match.
You always know it's a success when they come back for seconds. When they have that second helping, you've nailed it.
Yes, that's exactly my telltale too with my kids. When they go back to seconds, I know that they liked it. If they just sit there, finish their plate, then I know that they weren't really thrilled about it. Now, what about you, Keisha? Are you doing much cooking at home?
Anna, it's funny because I can actually relate to Jane Kathleen's story. Always relied on my mom's cooking. You would never find me in the kitchen. I think the most you'll see me do is make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, fill a bowl with cereal and milk. But you would never catch me in the kitchen. And actually, it wasn't until I moved out where I learned how to cook. My mom wasn't with me. She was, over 300 miles away. So I really had to learn how to cook. And it's funny because when somebody says, what is your most epic cooking fail story? There's only one particular story that comes to mind. And it's when I was actually hosting dinner after a week of moving here. And I was like, oh man, I don't know how to cook. I don't know what to do. I thought, frying fried chicken was the most easiest and simple thing I can do. I bought the chicken. I bought the powder that you would mix so that it becomes crispy, kind of like Popeyes and Jollibee chicken. But the funny thing is, I didn't know there was a difference between submerging canola oil versus canola oil spray. So I sprayed the pan with canola oil spray. And that was when I learned how to burn chicken the fastest And yeah, it was very embarrassing. Like, I literally probably only had 20 minutes left to run to the store and buy fried chicken because there was no way I was going to save the chicken. Anna.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Keisha. Well, for me, like Kathleen said, thank God for YouTube, right? Because now you can look up pretty much anything, and it has videos and it tells you step by step how to make it. Well, my funniest cooking experience or cooking fail was I would say within the first 5 years of marriage. And that was before you can go to the Filipino store and get your fish fried. So we went to the store, me and my best friend, and we told our husbands we're going to cook dinner for the family. So we bought some tilapias and went home, fried it. Well, little did we know at that time that you were supposed to descale the fish. So after we fried it, and to me and her, we both hardly cooked. It looked okay. And then the husbands came in, and the fish looked like porcupines because all the scales were all sticking up. So we didn't know that we had to scale it. And our husbands, we're still kind enough to eat it. It still tasted okay. You just couldn't eat the scale. So that was my most embarrassing cooking experience. Well, thank you, team, for sharing with us all of that stories. And who we could really make a nice meal for? It is our frontline workers, first responders, all of the essential workers. So let's take this time to thank them with a much deserved round of applause. We appreciate all that you do for us. That is today Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Kui, and we live in interesting times.
The magnificent, the breathtaking, ang pangmalakasan, the Philippine Arena, baby! Let's go! Nandito po tayo ngayon sa Philippine Arena!
Dito sa arena. Presto! Dakitin ng Net 25 para sa happy time. Yo, ding-dong, CGM, Tutsi, kompleto kami, malalakas kami. Oh, wala na ulan! Halika na! Ito na muna na ulan.
Alvin Chorizo! Alvin, ba't nandito ka?
Start up your weekday mornings with edutainment, news, and information kasama ang inyong paboritong Net25 shows. Samahan ang inyong paboritong morning barkada sa Pambansang Almusal at 5 a.m. Tatalakayin mga pangunahing balita sa pagtutulungan ng Radyo Agila